and welcome to another episode of Adventures in Alchemy. I am your host, Michelle Martin Dobbins, the creator of dailyalchemy.com and the Moon and Magic Planner. The new one will be coming out for 2020 very soon. So check that out on dailyalchemy.com. And today we're going to talk about Clover Magic specifically, but plant magic all in general, and how you can work with plants and kind of find your plant allies. So I just want to share, this is going to be one of those true story episodes. So before we dive in, let me quickly say, may I be of service? May I let the goddess speak? May I be a channel for source energy? May I honor you with my presence, and may you receive what you need and what you want, right? Both of those are great. So I worked some with my premium members. Last year we did a plant magic experiment, and I want to shout out, first of all, to say that a lot of the plants, well, I've been studying with plant people a lot. So some of my favorite resources for plant magical type stuff, Rebecca Byers, she has bloodandspicebush.com. I'll put a link to that in the show notes. She lives in Asheville, North Carolina, so my daughter and I have taken classes from her. She is the bomb. She's the best. And strangely enough, we met her at the Virtus Genii Symposium, which I went to the one not this past summer, but the summer before. My daughter went with me the first time, and she went to the one in July 2019. I'm hoping to go to the 2021. So anyone who goes to Virtus Genii and speaks, and the good folks that run Virtus Genii, why am I having a brain? Marcus McCoy and Katamara Rosarium, they are amazing magical resources for anyone, and especially if you're interested in plant-based magic. And they are the real deal. They're very hands-on alchemy, making all the goodness. So, yes, they make elixirs, and they make incense, and they make perfumes, and Marcus does blacksmithing and makes various magical implements there. So anyway, yes, I'll put a link to them also in the show notes. And last but not least, Carolyn Elliott, and I apologize, but the two ladies who help her with this class are fabulous, and I've forgotten their names. But if you're interested in really deep diving on plant magic, they do a class. I think it's called Earth. Is it called Earth? I've taken the class, and it's where I learned a lot about a concept of plant dieting, and just like really for a certain period of time taking in a certain plant and really getting to know that plant that way. And that's kind of what I'm talking about here today. It's sort of what the experiments that I did with my group, we really focused in on metaphysically contacting the plant and then physically engaging with that plant, usually by ingesting it. So obviously, when you're doing that, you pick a plant that is safe for you to ingest. And, different people have different safety as far as health conditions and allergies and whatnot. So always start with pretty innocuous plants when you're going to play with plants. But what I really wanted to share with you today was my experience with clover. And I've done some different plant dieting and plant experiments, which I may share at a later date and time. But for right now, I just wanted to talk about my experience this summer with clover. And it was not something that I planned. Sometimes I've planned, like, I'm taking a class with Carolyn Elliott, and so I'm going to plant diet with the plant in there. Or I just decide, this plant supports something that I'm trying to create in my life, and so I'm going to plant diet with this plant. So for me, I was really doing a lot of foraging this summer, and gathering wild herbs and plants and berries and things in nature. As I took a break a lot from the online world, just really being in that has just been very healing for me. And so one of the things that I did was just like, I went home to West Virginia, where I'm from. And when I was there, I foraged a good bit. And, I was very lucky. My parents have yarrow in their yard and Queen's Anne's lace and clover. Clover's everywhere there. Goldenrod, comfrey, I think, and some different things that I gathered to dry and like work with later or whatnot. But I decided just kind of on a whim to collect some clover. And the strange thing was to me in my brain, like I really didn't think of it that much as a forageable, but I was out on my grandparents' farm. And so this is like old family land. And so I collected a bunch of white clover and a bunch of red clover. And I saved some of the white clover and dried it. And I also made cookies with white clover in it. And then I took the red clover and I did some research online and found that I could make a syrup. And so I was really excited about this syrup and made this syrup, and I have still a little bit left. I've been using it for the past several months on a daily basis. So I made the syrup, basically just took the flowers from the red clover and boiled them and then let them sit overnight, and then added the sugar and made it. And so part of what I'm doing when I work with them is actually, just really trying to commune with the spirit of the plant and the actual spirit of the plant, spirit of the place. For me, it was a really, because the clover that I got, I got clover from my grandparents' farm. My grandparents since passed away. I mean, they've passed away before I collected the clover. They've been gone for several years. I also collected clover from my parents' property. I also collected clover, and I don't necessarily recommend you do this, but I spent a lot of time in graveyards this summer, and I was in the graveyard of both of my grandparents, my father's parents and my mother's parents, and there were clover growing on both of their grave sites, and I did take a few clover from each one. I left offerings there for the family, but technically you're not really supposed to take plants from graveyards. They're supposed to be for the people that reside there. But, search in your heart. All rules are, made to be bent sometimes, especially if you're willing to risk the consequences, eh? So these clovers just had that kind of feel of not just the plant, but the magic of the place where I collected them. And I didn't think too much about it, but what I decided to do with the syrup that I made was just to replace the sugar in the tea that I drink. I'm a tea drinker. I drink, usually a cup of tea or two every morning. So I did that, and I noticed 2 or 3 days after I made that and started drinking it, I had this dream of this energetic download and these clovers, these dancing clovers and clover flowers just dropping all over my body and just kind of embracing me in their energy. And just, it's one of those things that's really hard to put into words, but it was just a really beautiful experience. And now clovers just seem to follow me everywhere, online and offline. And there's 2 pots in my yard that I used to have flowers growing in. They're sitting over to the side, and there was just dirt in them and nothing. And I was yeah, I need to plant something in there. And I was considering doing some tomato plants or something. And when I went over and looked at them, they had clovers growing in them. So I have just really felt clover is kind of a plant ally for me. And, we talk a lot about having spirit guides in this magical world. And, some may have spirit guides who are animals, and you may work with your ancestors, and you may work with planetary deities like Jupiter and Mars and Venus, or there's so many things that we work with. And one of those can be plants, a plant ally. A plant can be a spirit guide to you, especially like the deva of that particular plant. And for me, it's just kind of a new path that was kind of surprised. And then like it hit me, like, why are you surprised that like Clover would reach out to you? Because I was really not like, I'll be honest, like I've gone to Virtus Geni. I've worked with a lot of different people who are really on the poison path and working with poison plants. And I was like, ooh, that's so exotic. Yes, I want to like connect with these poison plants. And I do have some, and I've bought salves, and I've been like slowly learning how to work with those. But I haven't really had any strong connections. And then all of a sudden it's like, hey, Clover, I'm here for you, baby. I got your back. And I'm like, oh, I wouldn't say disappointed. Like if like Clover had came up to me and been like, yeah, I'm your spirit ally at first, I probably would have been like, yo, disappointed. But it was one of those things, like it just synchronicity. Like, why was I out there picking Clover when it wasn't even on my list of things to forage? And I didn't even really know what I could do with it when I went out there and started picking it, because it spoke to me. And one whole lineage of my family, they come from a place called Clover Run. That's the name, and like I've so many times in my childhood heard people saying, they're over on Clover, it's over on Clover, or whatever, because that's kind of just like the shorthand for on Clover Run. Because, yes, as I live in South Carolina now, I am a mountain mama, yes, from the almost heaven, West Virginia, Appalachian region, country girl from a family over on Clover, yes. And was surprised when Clover came to me and said, hey, I'm here to help you. And so I'm still new in this relationship of working with Clover as a spiritual ally, but I continue to have dreams of Clover, and Clover is just kind of supporting me on my path. And I found it really interesting. I finally went and looked up and found that like red clover is used a lot for obviously luck, right? 4-leaf clovers are lucky. And I didn't even think about that because I was really focusing on the blossoms. But yeah, 4-leaf clovers are like just always lucky, right? Even it says if 2 people eat a 4-leaf clover, mutual love will result. 2-leaf clover means you will find a lover. 3-leafed is worn as a protective amulet. And all of this is from Tess Whitehurst that I'm reading to you now. You can find it on tesswhitehurst.com. She has a book on the magic of plants, and also one that I really like, the magic of trees. And like red clover is used for like magic and luck and love and all these. I'm like, hey, these are all great things. And I've always felt very lucky in my life. And I was like, things just kind of go my way. Okay. Until 2019 and still really not bad at all. So I was like, yeah, it makes sense. Also that white clover is used for protection. So I was really glad that I got a lot of dried white clover when I was up there. And so I'm kind of using it outside my house as a protection. And I used it in a ritual that I did last week around my ritual space as kind of an extra layer of protection, because since clover is a plant ally and it's also a white clover is protective, it felt really, really good and right to do it that way. And I'll share a little bit about that ritual in the next episode. And actually, the next episode will be about that ritual. But clover may not be like the plant for you, but just kind of if you're wanting to dive into this plant alchemy and plant magic and just like having some plant allies around, the easiest place to start is to look at what's around where you live. I know a lot of people who are in the northern hemisphere with me, you're going into fall, so there's less available. So definitely in the springtime and summer, I'll be doing some of this with my group, but look around and see. There may be still some things, like where I'm at now, there are still clovers out. I know I saw goldenrod. Some places still have elderberries. See if there's something that you can forage and make into something, be it a tea or a syrup or something. Elderberry syrup. I actually did make some of that from some local elderberries here in South Carolina last week, and it's really easy to make, and it's really good to have on hand for cold and flu. But just like play with that and kind of see what happens. And if you're in a place in time where that's just like not possible and not in your realm, like shout out to Becky that I mentioned at the beginning. She does tours and teaches people how to forage. So if you live here, definitely I'll put links to her in the show notes, as I said. But wherever you live, just do a search and someone might be out there available that can teach you how to forage if you don't know how to forage. And there's like lots of little simple things you can do. But of course, you do want to make sure that you're not getting anything poisonous or anything that's bad for you in particular. But if those are just like not an option for you right at this moment in time, one of my favorite things to do is just to get a tea of a certain plant. And I try not to get blends, just get that one plant. And I have a list on my Amazon showcase of like Plant Magic teas, some of my favorite organic plant matter or plant tea. If you want to go really simple, you just get the tea bags. And some of mine are favorite ones are like Buddha teas. And you just, have a couple cups of that tea every day. And if you want to go a little bit more in depth, you can get the actual plant matter and put the plant in the water and boil it and strain it and kind of make your tea that way from like, you can do it with like chamomile flowers or rose hips or whatnot. And if you get stuck, there's always instructions for that online. But I will put a link in the show notes, like I said, to some of my favorite teas. You can do it one of two ways. You can pick something that draws to you, or you can like search on the magical properties of certain plants and determine like, I want one for love, or I want one that's good for this or this or that. That's fine. But I'd also encourage you just to maybe go to my Amazon marketplace. You don't even have to buy it from there, but just go there and open up where all the little different teas are listed. Close your eyes and point to one. And then just do a little check and make sure, check in with your gut, check in with your health situation, make sure it's a tea that is good for you. Some aren't good for pregnant people or nursing people or things like that. People have certain medical conditions, but if it is, just, buy that tea and drink a couple cups of it, 2 or 3 cups of it every day for a couple of weeks or whatever. Just buy a box and drink it until it's gone. A lot of times there may be 30 bags. So if you drink 2 or 3 a day, like 10, 15 days of just experiencing what that plant will do for you. See what happens. You may find an ally that you'll work with ongoing in your magical life. So that is my experience with clover. And I would love to hear anybody else's experience with Plant Magic. And even if you have one and you would like to come on to the podcast and talk about it, that would be awesome. And that's the thing for today. So may we follow our passions. May we be good descendants. May we be future exalted ancestors. And may we live magically in the now. All right. Big hugs, big kisses, and lots of magic your way.